So this is a pitch for a comic that is pretty laughable if you look back on it in the 90s. Then again, that could be a slogan for any comic from the 90s, really. But this is kind of this would basically be if I could do it DC and be like, hey, I got this idea for a DC book, but it's not like your typical. It's kind of refreshing an old idea. And that's as you can see, Justice League Task Force. If you guys don't remember Justice League Task Force, it was basically Secret Avengers before Secret Avengers. It was basically Martian Manhunter put together a team of characters involving like Wally West and a few other like D-list Justice League characters, and having them go on like secret missions that the League didn't know about. Yes, it was and it wasn't as good. It was not good. But this Justice League Task Force is going to be a little different. This team is going to be this one's going to be put together just a wee bit different than the others. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we're going to talk about. Because it's not going to be like a bunch of heroes together. It's going to be more like one hero and a bunch of villains. This is going to be more like a Thunderbolts feel. Like this is going to be more like a Thunderbolts Redemption Squad in a way. So let's talk about the idea real quick. So the idea is basically that in this pitch, like this just random idea, that like the story would start out with like the Justice League battling Grundy, and Grundy's just like getting his ass handed to him by the major heavy hitters of the League, and by the end, and Oliver's just like, I feel bad for the guy. Like we come in, we beat him up, and then we send him to jail only for him to break out. It's kind of he's having one of those kind of crisis of, I'm basically Oliver's having the crisis most superheroes feel of. He's just gonna break out again. Like he's just gonna break out again. And by the end of it, after Grundy is subdued, Superman is talking to someone in the town where Grundy was attacking, and they're like, "So how did this start? Like, why did Grundy attack your town?" And he's like, "Oh, Grundy, it's just some backwater thing." It's like, "Oh, Grundy was just that big zombie feller was, walking near our town, and we didn't like how he looked, so we got guns and shot him." And Oliver overhears this and is like, "Let me get this straight, you backwater hickbag. Grundy was minding his own business, and you decided, hey, I'm just gonna shoot a super strong zombie man and get him into a raid and just antagonize him." He's like, "Well, yeah, he was just eating garbage, and that was our garbage." And Oliver's like, "I need to go back to the tower before I punch this man." So Oliver is just kind of pissed off about it because he's like, Grundy was just protecting himself, and Batman's like, "Oh, sure, yeah, you have to be that as it may, Grundy might have killed someone, and he has killed people in the past. Flash, you need not Flash, Oliver, you need to remember that." And Oliver's like, "We're the Justice League, and how many times are we gonna put people back and forth?" And he's like, "You want to give them to Waller instead to make another Suicide Squad?" And he's like, "No, I want to propose that we do better. That rather than just kind of put out the fire, we get ahead of it and maybe help rehabilitate people or help them, learn to be heroes." And Superman makes a point of that's a great idea, but remember, Luthor was a member of the Justice League, and look how that turned out. And he's like, I know, it's a long shot. Not everyone's gonna work, but we can't say we didn't try. We can't and they're like, "Yeah, but look at Black Adam. Look at even Captain Cold was a member of this Justice League of the Justice League for a bit." And then he's like, "Yeah, well, how many look at look at Atom Smasher. He used to be a villain, now he's part of the JSA." Or, look at he's trying to list off some villains that were heroes that were villains, and he's having a hard time. He's like, "Okay, I know what I'm suggesting is big, and it would not work, but we can't just sit here and say we didn't try. We have to at least give the benefit of the doubt that these people can change, that everyone can change." And the Justice League is like, "Okay, Oliver, what are you suggesting?" He's like, "Let me make a team of people we know we think we can reach." and I'm sure you guys know some people. And they're like, is anyone from your villain group that could want to change? And Oliver goes, oh, hell no. There's no one on my side that wants... There's no one in my rogues gallery that wants to, wants to turn over a new... I don't think Merlin is going to want to turn a new leaf at any time soon. So... But he's like, I know you guys know some of your villains would want to change. So... The consensus, the Justice League have a conversation, and then they talk to Oliver. Superman goes to Star City, and talks to him and is like, look, the Justice League and I talked it over, and while Batman and Martian Manhunter and even Diana had some thoughts, we all kind of agreed that we want to see the best in everybody. We always want to, no matter what, we always want to see the best in someone. And even though that doesn't go to people like Joker or Darkseid or whatever, there are those who have the ability to change. So, I'm gonna the team and I have sanctioned a task force for you to help rehabilitate some of these villains, and we found a few early candidates that you're gonna go talk to, but some of them are incarcerated, some of them aren't. So the first one he goes to, and he's like, well, Barry suggested, any one of his villains have the ability to change, but there's always one that has the ability to always come back to that flips between light and dark, and that, of course, is Leonard Snart, of course, Captain Cold, who was a member of the Justice League, and Oliver goes to talk to him, and Leonard is just he's in the process of robbing a bank, and Oliver stops him, and he's like, Leonard, just want to talk, dude. He's like, he puts the bow down, he's like, I come in peace, I won't attack you, the Flash or the rest of the League isn't with me, I want you haven't killed anyone, you just shot at the bank, you haven't stolen anything, you can walk away now, and we can just go get a burger, my treat. And Leonard's like, 1 hour. So Oliver and Leonard sit down at a bar, sit down at a burger joint, and Oliver explains his whole plan to Leonard. And Leonard's like, you do realize I was part of the Justice League and just gave up, right? I just didn't see any good in me. And he's like, that's because no one gave you any of the benefit. The only person who could was Barry, and he was barely around. So Barry, he says the Flash always saw the best in you, Leonard. Out of he sees the best in all of his rogues, but you exemplify what we want to do here, and I want to help you. The League wants to help you. We want you to be part of this team. And he's like, I have this feeling it's gonna go belly up, but what the hell? I'm in. It's better than getting my ass kicked every day. So, Captain Cold is the first to join. Then they the next one on the list is incarcerated, and that is the Atomic Skull. This was Superman's suggestion. So the Atomic Skull was trying to turn over a new leaf in the rebirth era of DC, but he had a bit of a relapse. So they go to a Supermax prison in Metropolis, and Oliver talks to Atomic Skull, and he's like, look, I heard you were trying to turn over a new leaf before, but you went nuts. What happened? And Skull goes, I just had a relapse. I couldn't, I tried being a hero, I really did, but look at this. Look at my face. I'm called the Atomic Skull, dude. What do you want me to... He's like, what do you want me to say? I'm the Atomic Skull, I'm scared. And he's like, that's because people don't trust you. They need, they just want, They judge you before they know you, but I can see you're better than that, Joseph. And he calls him his real name, Joseph. And he's like, holy shit, you're called, Atomic Skull is, taken aback by that. He's like, what did you call me? And he's like, Joseph, that's your name. He's like, if I could cry, I really would, because no one has called me my name in, 3 years. I haven't heard all I've heard is Atomic Skull. I have to, say my name out loud sometimes to remind myself, because everyone just sees the Atomic Skull, and he's like, and Oliver goes, well, I see Joseph. And that's when Atomic Skull goes, okay, you got me. So now Atomic Skull is part of the team. Then Diana is like, this is Diana's suggestion, and Diana's suggestion is Giganta. Giganta has always been like the team member who has always been like, she's bantied back and forth and even dated Ryan Choi Adam. So Oliver goes to her in the middle where she's like in the middle of after getting her ass beat in a fight, and he's like, look, just want to talk. Diana sent me. She doesn't want to hurt you anymore, and she believes that you can be something more. So they have the conversation. Giganta's like, okay, I will give it a shot. And Giganta also brings up the point of, like, this isn't like a Suicide Squad thing, right? You're not going to put bombs in her head. And he goes, no, absolutely not. I am going to do none of the sort. You are free to you are free to come and go as you please. Just don't get into trouble, please. I'm trying here. Next member was and this is where he's like, Batman had this suggestion, and that's Poison Ivy. Because Batman was gonna suggest Bruce deep down talks to Oliver head on. He goes, because Oliver Batman really hates this idea of letting villains be pseudo Justice League members, but he was outvoted in the motion to make this task force. But then he confronts Oliver and he's like, I always want to see the best in these people. I always try to get help to them in Arkham City, but they don't want it. But there is someone I have seen who's been making progress. She needs you, and that's Ivy. So Poison Ivy is brought in. She gets talked into it, and he's like, well, what about Harley? And he's like, Harley's, we can't get to her because of Waller, but you can get to Ivy, and maybe through that, maybe you can attract Harley to you. So, and then the final member is Grundy. Oliver didn't forget Grundy, so that's the team right there. We have Green Arrow as the leader, Captain Cold, Giganta, Grundy, Atomic Skull, and Poison Ivy. There you go. It's a solid 6-person team. And that's more or less what I would love to do with this version of Justice League Task Force, is just make... I would like to add, maybe Killer Frost, or... Because, again, that's another one who was, trying to be good, but she just couldn't reach it. So, maybe add Killer Frost later. But that's the initial lineup right there, is Oliver and those 5 villains who are trying to be, better than they were. And that would be the whole story, is just Oliver trying to reach out to them, talk to them about their problems, confront their own personal problems, actually give them therapy, something they've been desperately needing. And I would also love, if I could do this as an actual story, I would have a full-on war with the Suicide Squad, because Waller would be like, nah, I'm not I'm such a petty... Waller would be such a petty bitch that she would not stand the idea of villains that she could use as cannon fodder being flipped over to the Justice League. She wouldn't want that. Plus, she's the only one who gets to play with supervillains, not anyone else. So there probably would... I would have, a Justice League Task Force Suicide Squad versus thing. But, yeah. So that's my story. There's my pitch. That's probably never going to happen because, God forbid I actually get to write comics. Anyway, so you guys tell me in the comments below, what did you guys think of this Justice League Task Force idea? Did you guys like it, hate it? Comment below, let me know. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.